Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome to this first mentoring session. Let's start with a quick introduction. Sai, do you want to quickly go
Yeah,
and introduce yourself?
yeah. Hi everyone, this is Sai, and you're asking about like this all.
It's okay. Go. That's fine. I didn't say so. You can start. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'll call you as Tanmay and I'll call him as Sai. So, but
yeah,
but you can go ahead, Tanmay.
yeah. Sorry, Sai, you can go ahead. I'm so sorry. I thought you.
Uh, Hi everyone, my name is Sai Nikhil, and I'm currently doing my master's in University at Buffalo. My major is computer science. I'm good at coding in Python, and usually I will solve every day I will solve lead code problems, and I have a solid understanding of full stack web development also. I'm interested in learning DevOps. This is my intro.
Right. Good. Right. Welcome. Tanmay, do
Thank
you
you,
want
sir.
to go?
Yes. Hi everyone. This is Tanmay. So I have completed my master's from University of Central Missouri. So my major is computer science, and I have worked for like Red Hat company like on a short-term project on Ansible. So that's about me. I'm willing to learn more about DevOps.
Lovely. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Rutvik, do you want to go next? Introduce yourself quickly.
Yeah, sure. Hi. So I'm Ritvik. I'm currently pursuing my master's in University of Illinois at Chicago in computer science as my major. So I graduated in 2022. After my bachelor's, I have come directly to master's, so I don't have any formal experience in full time, but I have done an internship at college. So that's the only thing I have as an experience in my career. And yeah, really looking forward to learn this DevOps course and like see what I can do in this.
Sure. Welcome to all of you to this mentoring session. We'll try and see. I mean, one of the very, very fundamental thing in corporate world, right, which seems to be getting through the cracks is time management. Okay, time management has nothing to do with DevOps, but it's about commitment. It's about being able to do when you need to do, right? And being able to catch up in a period of time that is given to you. So somebody gives you a week and say you got to complete this. You have to analyze and understand whether you'll be able to do it in a week and how much you need to do in a day to be able to complete it in a week's time. Okay. Uh, Time management is much more than this, but I just wanted to talk about it. The reason is going forward, what I would want to do is if we select a time, uh, I would love you guys to leave all the commitments and give me your 3 months. It's like what Subhash Chandra Bose used to say, right? Give me blood, I'll give you freedom. That's exactly what I'm asking for is give me your time. I'll make sure that this 3 months will be memorable for you throughout your career. Okay. Just to give you an example, today I had a commitment. I had to take my family out, which I was not aware about. I was thinking it's on Sunday, and that's the reason why I set this up for Saturday. Okay. But even then, I was supposed to leave at 7, but I'm spending my time with you guys now, keeping my commitment aside because the first commitment was I'm going to come here and teach you. Okay. So if I'm being so committed, I'm expecting you also to be equally committed to this.
Sure, Sam.
Yeah. All right. And this is going to help you in a longer run in an organization because people want you to be committed towards the tasks that are assigned to you. So as we move forward, I'm going to be giving you assignments, okay? And these are not going to be like school assignments, right? It's not going to be tell me what is 1 + 1 and you come back and say it is 2. It will be more of assignments to keep you busy. And however much dedication you put for it, that's what you're going to reap, right? So let's talk about DevOps now that we've talked about everything that's prerequisite, which is nothing to do with DevOps, right? Uh, I want to clear off some misconceptions around DevOps. Okay. Uh, does DevOps has coding to do? Many a times you'll hear answers saying, oh, you only need to do scripting or there is no coding at all. But my perspective of DevOps is completely different. And this perspective Might be because the reason that I'm primarily a developer. I came into DevOps being a developer. I did not come into DevOps being an operational guy. Okay. And this is where the key thing comes into picture now. You're going to ask me what is dev and what is ops. Anybody over here want to take a guess or want to try and explain me what is dev and what is ops and what is dev ops? Anyone? Maybe Sai Nikhil, do you want to go? Your name
I
is
think
showing up first in the queue, okay? And there's no reason why I'm taking Sai's name first, but I would
yes,
take everybody else's name first eventually. So
I
go
think
ahead.
it is a communication between the development team and the operation team.
No, before you tell me what is dev ops, tell me what is dev and what is ops. What is the responsibility?
I think uh, I'm not aware of it. I think it is the development team and the operation.
Yeah, but what do they do?
Um,
It's
I
okay to
think the
say I don't know.
operation. Okay. I think the operation team will do the coding part and building, and they will do the testing, and the development team will do this, and the operation team will do the deployment and integration part.
Okay.
Integration, deployment, and source code management. I think
Okay.
these.
So let Tanmay make a guess over here, or if she knows it, let her. You are not wrong, but let everybody try.
Yeah, so coming to the dev, I think the application code and the source code, everything comes under like dev, and then the testing part and the deploying part, everything comes in the operation team.
Okay.
And collecting the feedback, and again, we will send it to over the dev team for any improvements. Like,
Okay, good. Tanmay. Ritvik, do you want to try anything different?
Not much different, but I think developing is like creating the application, testing it is something like that, and like operations is something like enabling communications, monitoring everything over, giving a bird view of everything, and then like letting the process happen or something like that.
Okay, good. I believe you guys are all born after 90s, right? Anybody born in 80s over here? No, everybody's born in 90s. So good. So I'll give you a picture over here, okay? Let's consider you all are developers, okay? Your fundamental responsibility as a developer is to write code, okay? And we write code to build products, right? So you will have your own team of product managers, developers, lead developers, architects, so on and so forth. That's dev, okay? Now, in the older days, when I was just out of my college and I was your age, what we would do as developers is we would build, I mean, we were working on Java. If you were, that time there was no .NET, there was different languages. There was Borland, Delphi, and Visual Basic and all of those, but we were working in Java. So anybody who has worked in Java would know back then we used to build web applications, okay? Servlet and JSPs is what they used to call. You might have not even heard. If you did not hear, don't even go and research about it because it's a dead technology. Nobody uses it now. Servlet is still used. If you know Java, Java has modern frameworks, right? Like Spring and Struts. They are still based on Servlet. Web 2.0, Web 3.0, Web 1.0, or Web 10.0, eventually you'll hear in years to come, right? So that will still have servlet, but people build frameworks on top of it to make web development easy, okay? So that is all dev. Dev's responsibility is just to build. It could be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, React, whatever it is. They just know to write code, okay? And there are architects who would tell them how the whole system should behave. For example, if I give you an anomaly of a car, when I tell you the car, right? If I say somebody like a developer, there would be developer to build their door. There will be developer to build the tire. There will be developer to build the steering. There will be developer to build the engine, so on and so forth, right? So each developer is doing their own role, but there will be somebody to to say all of these things together will come together someday, and that will be car, and the car that will be dynamic. It will not be static sitting in one place, right? It will be moving. So there's motion to it. So that's the role of architects, okay, who would say, oh, the final car is going to be looking like this. It will be moving. It'll have gears. It'll have speed, so on and so forth. There'll be brakes, okay? But here, developer, you build a door. You build glasses for it. You build the body for it. You be the painter for it. So you'll have several developers. Some developers might do more than one job. Are you guys able to understand the similarity I'm giving you here? It's important.
Yes, sir, we can able to understand.
Okay, good. And now you would have somebody who would be working with the managers, making sure that the time management aspects comes into picture, right? That you are able to complete it. Because imagine a car, everything is built, but there are no tires because tire is taking more longer time to build. The whole team is a failure, correct? Even though they had built an awesome, sophisticated engine, modern paint, so on and so forth, right? A car that runs on solar, let's say, but there are no tires. So there you have to have somebody who will be keeping a track of what is the pulse of the project. That's where the project manager come into picture. Okay. So are you guys clear with the dev part of it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the next piece is earlier days, right? Back when I was just out of college, we used to build war files. That's what they used to call web archives. Okay. We used to build web archives. We used to put it in a SFTP server. SFTP server, you look at it basically when we start working in these DevOps sessions. SFTP server is a server basically. It's a secure FTP server. We used to put the war file on the secure FTP server and ask the ops team. We used to ping them or email them or whatever that mode of communication is, and tell them, hey, can you deploy this on the server? And what do you mean by deploy this to the server, right? When you build a product, your product needs to be consumed by your users, correct? It has to be publicly accessible website, let's say. You do not, as a developer, you do not have access to any of the production system. It is the ops guy who have access to it. And there's a reason why you segregate or where you separate it between saying dev and ops are separate teams. Because anybody who's building the product, if they want to add a vulnerability into the system, saying, hey, when you transfer $10, a cent from that gets transferred into my account. Developers can do it, right? So to avoid those kind of situation, there are many more layers in between. There's a production support team. There's a cab team. Okay, cab team basically is when things go wrong, they're going to come in. They're the board of directors and the top guys who come into the meeting and start talking. So we are not going there, right? We are not talking about all of that layers as yet. We are only talking about dev and we are talking about ops. And I want you to be clear about that fact. Dev, you're clear. Ops is the guy who takes the artifacts, the final artifacts that you built, and deploys it onto a server. In the olden days, it used to be Tomcat server, WebSphere server, JBoss server, so on and so forth. In the modern world, it is Docker images most of the time. And the target server is usually EC2 if it's in AWS, or VM when it's Azure or Google, right? We deploy it in the cloud. So the world has changed, but the fundamental aspect of dev and ops has not changed. Dev only writes code. Ops delivers this code to the production servers for being accessed by the users. Clear?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, what is DevOps? The problem was whenever we used to ask this request or send a request to the ops team saying, hey, here's a war, please deploy it to the production server, they would come back and say, oh shit, we deployed it, but your application is not accessible. There's a problem. And then we would spend some time with them and figure out, oh, you know what? The server that you're deploying on is supposed to have this particular patch and it doesn't have. So please apply the patch and then everything would be okay. Sometimes it will be a configuration file missing. Sometimes it will be database not updated. We forgot to send the database scripts to them, right? So there was all of this moving pieces where developers would say, it's working on my machine. It's not working on yours. Let's figure out why. Sometimes it might be the version of Java that you're running on. They have a Java, let's say back then Java 8 or Java 5. We were working on Java 5. That's where I started with. And then they would try to put it on a different version of Java and it will not work. Or it will be a different version of operating system altogether. They would be on Ubuntu, we'll be on Windows. And now there's a problem when we went to Ubuntu. I want you guys to understand this, because many a times what happens is when somebody talks right, and you've never ever seen it, it becomes very difficult when you go and read somewhere on the book that this is what the ops does, this is what the dev does, and you've never experienced it in your life. It becomes very difficult to relate it. So I think that's where I'm coming in to break that barrier, that I have seen that world. You can ask me. Okay. So up until now, whatever I said about dev and ops, you guys are clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now, because of the problems that dev and ops would have in terms of taking the build code and deploying it into production, this concept of DevOps culture came into picture. It's a culture, right? Neither the dev have lost the job, neither the ops have lost the jobs. What is done is that the ops side started doing a lot more automation. This world of Docker came into picture, which said, hey, you know what? Developers keep saying it works on my machine, it doesn't work on yours. Let's fix that problem. Take Docker. When Docker came in, they said, okay, Docker you can create one container. And again, you have not seen it yet. You'll see it in these sessions, right? But for now, just accept what I'm saying as true. So Docker can only be one container. I want somebody to manage that container. What if I want to spin up 2 containers or 3 containers of the same type? I need some manager. They said, okay, here it is, Kubernetes, take it. Okay. And Kubernetes does a lot more. It does the health check periodically to make sure your application is not down. And if the application is down, it'll try to heal it by itself, right? So it does a lot more thing. And all of this we are going to see in this sessions that we will have for the next 3 months. Okay. It'll be extremely exciting because you've never ever seen this and you learn it for the first time. You're going to enjoy it. And I want you to bag on that enjoyment. Okay. Because when you enjoy it and when you're on fire, that's the best time to learn as much as you can. Because once you are in a primary job, it becomes very, very shallow because you're only going to learn as much as you need. You'll never do a full horizon learning, which we'll be doing now. All right. So this is the story of ops. I think we already spent about 15, 20 minutes, I believe, getting to know DevOps. And it was important because if you are doing DevOps training, you ought to know what DevOps is. And the whole reason for me to tell you this whole story is because I personally do not think DevOps does not code. I have done front-end programming. I have done middleware. I have done back-end. Okay. And now I'm doing DevOps, being on the cloud. Okay. So I've done almost all of it. The most I love is DevOps. And I think the whole reason I love it is because we are the backbone of everything else. We are the machinery on which everything else works. If we freeze, everything else freezes. If we stall, everything else stalls. If we keep moving, everything else keeps moving. Okay. So I do a lot of coding. Okay. I do a lot of automation. And I think more than coding, it's all about thinking right. It's all about looking at a problem and finding out the best solution for it. The solution that you want for a problem might be a very simple problem, which we are going to see across this time that we work. We are going to see. All right. So with this, I will stop here for a second. I will see if you guys have any questions on what I said so far. If you have doubts, let's clarify it right away. Anyone? No? I would like if you are interactive, guys, talk. It's fine if you want to unmute yourself and talk. Go ahead, talk. Nobody wants to talk. Do I have to start taking name? Tanmay?
Yeah, we're good as of now. We got like what DevOps is exactly and what the dev team does and the application team.
Okay, good.
We're good at.
All right. So where does this connection for DevOps or where does the connection of ops with dev takes place in the modern world of DevOps? Okay, it starts with Git. There are several source code management systems, okay, but the modern world, everybody is using Git, right? There might be people who are using Team Foundation Server or anything else that's called from Microsoft, for managing their .NET projects. People might be using SVN, who are in the older world. They might be using CVS. There are several more in the past what we had, okay? But before we go and talk about Git, what I want to understand from each one of you, exactly the same way we talked about DevOps, is what do you think is the purpose of a source code management system? SCM for short. What is the purpose? Rutvik, do you want to go first? Why do we need a source code management system?
I think like many developers work on the same part, like many people work in the same thing. So I think it's a, we will be able to like manage things, like add something else. If we have a new idea coming up, we can do that. So we want to delete something, we can delete that, or like do some sort of changes to the thing, the existing part, and collaborate with everyone. I think so, to be in a simple side, I think this is the thing.
Okay, all right, good attempt. Tanmay, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so to develop an application, many developers will be working on the same application, although they have like different parts like they'll be working on. So in order to avoid the conflicts and in order to save our work and to maintain like one central place where we store our application code.
Mhm.
So I think that's why we use.
Okay. Sai, do you want to go next? Sai Nikhil.
I think it is useful for the version control, and the main use, I think it is for the collaboration between the people, and we can add our code. And if anyone has done any changes, so we can see in the code. And
Okay, all right. Let me share my screen now, okay? Let's take some examples over here. Oops. So let's assume for a second, I'm creating a file, okay? Test.txt. I go in and write something over here. This is DevOps Mentoring Program 2024, okay? I close it. I have this file over here, okay? So what I want to do is, in the older days, right, when there was no Git or whatever, what people would do is, and don't assume this is just one file, okay? Assume it's a code that somebody has written for that particular day. If I was only one developer working, what I would do is I would take this guy from here, copy, and there would be a server, a central server, okay? I would go and create a folder in a central server. Assume this is a central server over here. I'll call it a name called remote server. I would connect to the remote server as a developer. I would create a folder called, let's say, 20th January 2024, and I would copy the file over here. Okay. Tomorrow I come in and I start making a change to this one again. And I go and change it to today is second day of coding. Any guesses what I would be doing next on that second day? I know it's obvious, but go ahead, take it, Tanmay.
So like you would do the same like copy paste
Yeah, copy from here,
and paste
go
it.
here and create 21st, right?
Yeah.
And I would put this over here. And this will go on, right?
Yes.
And then there would be one more person who would be sitting on this remote server. As soon as I'm done putting my code over here, I will email him saying, hey, I've put the code for 21st January 2024. please save it onto a disk, because the server could crash, right? If the server crashes, the code goes away. So he would take a backup on a disk and he would actually save it into a cupboard, okay, or into a vault. That's how the world used to be. If you guys are, if you feel like laughing that this is how it used to work, this is actually how it used to work. And I have worked in an organization who would do it this way. They had no other way. Okay. Now let's add another level of complexity to it. Up until now, I was the only one developer working on it, right? Let's do it a little differently. Let's call it as Sai. And I'll just say something else, Robin. And there are two developers that are working. So what they have to do? Each one would be connecting to the server for that particular day. He'll be creating a folder, let's say by his name. There'll be Sai, and then there'll be Robin. They will both be putting their code inside here. Okay, so let's assume I put in here, and Robin puts in here. Now, when each one of them, Sai will send an email to the remote server guy, and Robin also will send an email to the remote server guy. The remote server guy will wait until both of them have sent him the email. Once they have both sent him the email, what he will do is he will have a common one here, which will say combined. He will take code from here, put it in combined, and take from here and put it in combined. But now assume both of those files are conflicting. And again, keep in your mind when you're looking at what I'm doing, right? It's not one file we're talking about. It's the entire code we're talking about that is being backed up. So there might be a file that conflicts. For example, in this case, it is conflicting. When it conflicts, the remote server guy has to talk to those two developers and ask them which is the right change. You get the problem? I want you guys to be unmuted. It's okay.
Yeah, I think we'll manually look for the changes.
You will want to merge, right? Because you don't know now. There are two files and both of them have a change. There's no way you can try to do a diff between those two files and find out what is the difference, right? And resolve it. But you understand the pain that this remote server guy will have to go through to create that combined?
Yes.
Right? So to solve this problem, and this is where I think we all, when we learn, what we have to understand is why a technology came in. A technology is not going to come in for fun just because it is fun to have the technology. It comes in to solve a problem. So what you need to first understand is what is the problem? What was the problem that he's trying to solve? And as you are coming in and Git is already there, people are already using it, you will never ever know what were the problems of the past. These were the problems of the past that Git is trying to solve. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it in the Git way. Let me remove this old way of doing things and let me open a Git bash over here. I assume everybody has installed Git on their machine.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm not going to get into the details of how to install Git. Okay, if you need help, just let me know. We'll try and understand it. But since you all have installed, you should have a Git bash over here. Okay, we'll start with something very fundamental. Okay, and my whole intent is to teach you, which nobody else around will be teaching you. Okay, my whole intent would be to teach you something wherein you start using your mind as to, oh yeah, there is a problem. If there's a problem, how do I fix it? Is there already a technology that is fixing it, or do I have to write something to fix it? Okay, so I want you to get that rational mind, the mind that thinks. Okay, so now let's start with Git. The first command on Git, which everybody will teach you, is Git version. Okay, you can look at what is the version of Git. So say, for example, you can search for Git download. That's what you would have done. if I go here, the version of Git would be different, right? 243. So let me go ahead and download it. So right now, if you look at me, I'm on a Git version of 240, which is not too bad. I will go ahead and do a 243. So I'll download for Windows, 64-bit Windows setup. And I will close this guy. Whoever wants to see, I mean, this is especially for Bhargav, if he has not done, I'm pretty sure he's done it. So I go to downloads. It's still downloading. Okay, I don't want to wait for it. Okay, I don't want to wait for 9 minutes. But if it would download sooner, I would have gone and shown you how to install it. But since it's taking time, I will go in here, open up my old Git bash. And the first command I showed you was git version. Okay. I would like if somebody could make notes while you're looking at it and I talk about commands, so that that's assignment for you. Okay, get back to me on what commands did I show you. All right, if you need my email address, just ask me later, I'll send it to you. The next one is I want to initialize a Git server. I want to initialize a Git server, okay, not a Git client. What you could do is you could do git init -- bear. This is a server. Okay, let me do one thing before I go into this. Let me create a folder, mkdir git server. I don't like to put hyphens. Cd git server, and then git init -- bear. That's my server. Okay, you don't really see your files. There are several files here which are automatically created. Okay, assuming this is my server, that's my server. Okay, what I'm going to do is clear this to a pwd to get the present working directory. Don't just save the commands that I'm showing you, which is git related. Also note down the commands that I run and you're not aware about, or just note down everything that I'm doing so that you can ask me questions, because I have not explained those commands to you. pwd is present working directory, so I'll keep it with me. Okay, I will go back and I'll say git init, or let's say git clone file : // and let's see if this will work. Let's see. Get this guy from here. And we want to give it a different name. So let's call it as git server clone. So that's my git server clone. Okay. What you have seen up until now is you've seen people creating repositories in GitHub, and then you're cloning from there. What I'm showing you is there's no GitHub. This is your GitHub over here. Okay. It's a very important concept that I'm showing you over here to take the benefit of Git, really understand Git at the core, and then you start building on top of it. So I have a Git server, I have a Git server clone. Okay, think of it as a repository in the server. Okay, when I say Git server, it's a repository, one repository in a server, and this is the clone of that repository. I have created it in the same folder, but I could have created it anywhere else. Now, what I will do is, since this is Git, which is a Git repository, basically, what I would suggest to you is, when you get time, please download and install VS Code on your machine. This one, okay? Can you make a note of it? Just install this on your machine, everyone.
Yes.
Okay. After you've installed it, I want to go inside the Git server clone. Okay, that's my working directory because the server is assuming it's somewhere remote. This is my working directory. I want to do code dot basically will open up my VS Code. You can even open VS Code and then say open, but code dot will open VS Code for me, which is here. And now if you see, there's no files in it. Okay, I'm going to start creating some files. So there's a file that's created over here. I don't know why it doesn't. There's a test file over here. I would say ONE1. Save it. Okay. Now comes the beauty of Git. I would say Git status. Git status is to check if something has changed from the last known condition. What is it saying? It's saying there's an untracked file called git.txt. Use git add file name to include in what will be committed. So I will just follow these instructions, what they're showing over here, okay? After I did git status. So I would say git add file name is test.txt. Does not match txt. Okay. Now if I say git status, what will git tell me? Git is saying changes to be committed. So they're saying on branch master, no commits yet, changes to be committed. If you want to remove it from that commit, you can do git rm -- cast file name to unstage it. Okay, but I'm not going to do this. I don't want to unstage it. I want to really commit it. If I want to commit it, the command is git commit -m as in message, and then you give some message. Let's say initial commit, and I enter. Now if I say git status, what is it saying? Your branch is based on origin master, but the upstream is gone. Use git branch -- unset upstream to fix up. Nothing to commit working tree. What I'm going to do is, just for the fun of it, I'll try to say push. Let's see if it comes back with error. Did it come back with error? No, right?
No.
Okay. I'm going to stop here for a second before I go too deep into it and complicate this whole situation. Up until now, what I showed you, are you following? I didn't go to GitHub. I didn't go to any external server. I created my bare bone server. I cloned from that server. I should not even call it server. Actually, it's a repository, but it's a remote repository. Okay. So remote repository, I cloned it and I started working on it by putting a test file. I added the text file. I committed the text file. I pushed the text file. Now, since I pushed the test file, now the important concept comes in, which I want to show you. If I go back now here and do a ls -lrt, ls -lrt is to list everything. There is a git server clone. Let's assume I have made this change and Rutvik wants to clone from this server. What will be Rutvik's command? It will be same command like before. I will bring it back. Git clone, this, right? And then I will give it a name, my repo, or let's call it as git server clone 02. I'm cloning it for the second time. I want you to make a guess over here. When I clone it now, will the test file that I created be there in there or it will not be there? So each one take a chance. Sai Nikhil, go first. Will that test file be there or it will not be there?
It will be there. I
Okay.
think.
Tanmay, what do you think?
Yeah, it will be.
And what about Rutvik?
It would be there.
Okay. Why do you think it will be there? I made a change on Git server clone, right? I didn't make a change to Git server. Right now, I'm trying to clone from Git server. Why do you think it will be there?
server folder.
Mhm. Rocket science here. What do you think? Anything else you want to see in Git server?
No. Yeah, the test.txt file will not be cloned.
What about Ruthvik and Sai Nikhil? Do you want to change your answers, or do you think strongly it will be there?
I think it will not be there.
Okay, Ruthvik.
So you clone the second one, so I think it won't be there.
Okay, I was expecting this answer for the first time because the answer is it will be there. Why is it there? Do you know? Don't take any guesses yet. Let me show you something else more. I'm going to add a file over here called test2.txt. And I would say git status, and this is on git server clone, not the 021, okay? I will do a git add over here. Now I will go here, cd git server clone 02. I'll do a git status. There's no change over here, right? And I do a ls minus lrt. This file is there, test.txt. I'll do a git pull. Everything is all up to date. Now, the only command I've done on this repository, assume this one is Samir and this one is Nikhil. They are both taking the code from the same server. Samir is making a change. Samir has added a file. I did a git add dot. Now, if I do a ls minus lrt, will that changed file be there or not there? Take a guess. This is interesting, guys. If you know this next 5 minutes that I'm teaching you, you'll start appreciating what Git is at the core. So take a guess. I have only done git add dot over here. Will the change reflect in, let's assume this is Samir and this is Nikhil. Will it reflect in Nikhil's source code? Whatever file I just added. Go ahead, quickly take a chance because I have just 10 minutes left before I leave.
No, because it's not committed yet.
There you go. It's not there. So now since you said it's not committed, I'll do a git commit -m updated or added test2.txt. Now, Tanmay, what do you think?
Push.
If I do pull, will it show up now?
Maybe you did not push to that clone.
Okay, so answer is it will not be there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Rutvik, what about you?
I guess it won't be there.
Okay. It will obviously not be there because when you do a git add and git commit, it only remains in work area or staging area. It doesn't go to the remote area. Remote area is a remote server. So if I do a git push now, and I do a git, if I just do ls minus lrt, it will obviously not be there. But if I do a git pull, you see this file now? Now if I do ls minus lrt, you see this file over here, test2.txt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There is more. There is more to this whole story. But I think this story is good enough story for us today to reflect on what we've learned. Because this, what I've just shown you, go across the whole internet, search for it, and bring me this exact same information or similar information, which will try to tell you what Git really is. That's your assignment, okay?
Got it.
Because many a times, right, the only people who can keep it simple are the people who understand the technology. Everybody will talk about git clone, git add, git commit, git push, staging area, work area, so on and so forth. But over here, what you've learned today is to create your own remote repository without having GitHub. Okay. And how to clone from that remote repository using a technique which I showed you over here. file : / If you're on a Windows system, yeah, I mean, if I'm also on a Windows system, actually, if you're using Git Bash, you're good with this. If you're using Windows command prompt, you might have to change this way the prompt looks. There'll be / and all that, right? Okay, I'm going to stop here because I think this is good enough for you to reflect on today. What you need to take from today's session is in your mind that there is a remote server somewhere. There's a remote repository somewhere. I would not even call it a server. There's a remote repository somewhere. And each one of us can clone from that remote repository. And each one of us can push to that repository. When all of us try to clone from it and eventually push to it, what potentially could happen is we could get into merge conflicts. Remember that the old one that I showed you, when test and test was having the problem and the remote server person was having a trouble to combine it, there could be conflict. How to resolve those conflicts? That also Git allows you to do. Interesting?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, good. Do you have any questions, anyone? I'm going to stop the recording and, well, I'll stop the recording after you guys finish asking a question, but I'll stop sharing. All right, you have any questions, you can ask me. If you like the approach that we're taking to understand a technology, do you think there's anything different that we need to do? Feel free to comment, please. Go ahead, Tanmay, first.
I understood it. This is great, but I have like one question. You have initially cloned the Git server clone from Git server, right?
No? When is, oh, wait, hold on. Git server is a bare
Yeah.
repository, if you remember. This is acting like our server. This is acting like GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket for us. That's why you don't see your test file over here. That's the remote server for us. That's a remote repository, actually. Don't even call it remote server. Let's call it remote repository.
Okay.
It's like a repository in GitHub.
Okay.
I cloned that repository over here. And I cloned that repository over here. So think of it as a remote repository at the center. Samir sitting over here and cloning it. Nikhil sitting over here and cloning it. This is Samir, this is Nikhil. So let's give it a name. Samir. Is there anything else holding to it? And this is Nikhil. Okay, go ahead. Ask the question now again.
So initially, how did we create, like Samir was cloned from Git repository, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we cloned it from Git repository, it should have all the files which are in Git repository in Samir, right? But why we don't have any of them?
Ask the question again, please. Both these repositories have been cloned from Git repository.
Yeah.
Nikhil has been cloned from Git
yeah.
repository. Samir has been cloned from Git repository.
Yeah. So why don't we have the files which are in Git repository in Nikhil and Samir?
Yeah, because this is the way server keeps it. These are not the files. Think of this as metadata.
Oh, okay.
This is how Git manages it. So nobody ever, if you go ask any of your peers today, how is a repository created and managed on GitHub? They will only tell you, I go to the GitHub, I go to repositories and I create a repository. That's what they will tell you.
Yeah.
But what is the structure of the repository? Nobody would know. The structure of the repository is this. Okay.
Yeah.
This is how on the server it keeps all this. These are Git hooks. When we talk about Git hooks, we will see what Git hooks are. Okay. But these are all the information. This is all the information that it keeps.
Okay. So in the sense now it's an empty repository. So we clone
It is right now it is not empty, right? Because we have pushed a master branch to it. There's master over there.
Yeah,
and then
not right now, but while initially creating it.
Initially creating it, it's a blank. It's as if I'm going here to repository and creating a new repository over here. It's as good as that. So if I create a repository over here called DevOps, 2024 over here and make it publicly accessible or privately accessible and create repository. It is as good as that. So git init --bear is the command to initialize a repository. To clone a repository, it is git clone. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's
Okay. Anybody else has questions?
No, sir.
Okay. You guys have understood what we've talked?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, good. Did you know all this, what we talked about today?
I
Yeah,
also
we came to know about all.
No, did you know about it in the past before the session?
No.
No, sir.
Okay, good. All right. If you guys don't have any questions, we will end the session today. What I want you to do is I want you to get back to me with all the commands that you've learned. Okay. I will drop you, or just feel free to message it in the same group, because that way you'll have a, always a record to go back, a historic record to go back and look at what you've learned. Okay. So send me the commands that you've learned. If you have any questions, let's talk in the next session. And,
Sure,
and
sir.
plan and let me know what day you want to meet for the next session.
Sure, sir.
Okay. All right, guys. Good night. Take care.
Good
Thank you,
night.
sir. Good night.
Bye.